everyone. Man, this 30 days, 30 videos thing is really getting to me. Especially right now, I'm moving. It's chaotic. Moving to a new place to kind of save a little bit of money and blah, blah, blah. But I'm kind of pressed for ideas, so let's talk a little bit about your questions. I've saved up a few of your questions over the weeks, and here they are. Question number one, why don't I get like an e-bike, a scooter, or a moped, you know, something like that? Why don't I get my own form of transportation? Simply put, I don't think it's really needed. You don't really need a bike, a moped, a car. You don't need any of that stuff here. Like the bus is perfectly convenient. It's cheap. You can get the OFOs for cheap or buy your own bike for really cheaply. I just don't think it's really needed. Not to mention the fact that they will be illegal in Chengdu within the next couple of years. Number two, how can a tourist see the real China? That's a good and interesting question. You know, it's all real China, isn't it? Even places like Shanghai, which are not really Chinese at all. It's still China. But like real China, I guess you're thinking of like, I'm thinking kind of that classical image that we see in like all these movies and stuff like that. Like I would recommend go to places that are not on like the Lonely Planet Guide. Go to places like Gansu or Ningxia, like the Northwest, or go to like Guangxi, Guizhou, or other places like that. These places that are not really frequently traveled by a lot of foreign tourists, or even like Xinjiang. Xinjiang would be a great example. It's not classical kind of Han Chinese culture, but it is Chinese. But it's also got the interesting mix of Uyghur and Kazakh and all these other minorities there. I think that, and you can see things that not every foreigner is going to see and do things that not every foreigner is going to do. And that's what you want, right? That's it. Why don't Chinese people like NASCAR? Because they're not redneck idiots from Tennessee or wherever the hell NASCAR is. What about the situation for older teachers who want to come to China? Yeah, that's actually a really good question as well. China does have kind of an age prejudice when it comes to teachers and workers here. I think if you're over like 55, you pretty much can't get a job anywhere in China. That's just it. China wants to attract kind of younger people and provide this youthful, exotic image for foreigners coming into the country. And plus, like, you know, a lot of them think that 55, you know, you ought to be retiring pretty soon. It means you probably won't invest a lot of time in China or a lot of energy or money or whatever. So they just won't really hire you. Young people make universities, companies, and private schools look better. That's just it. And if you don't really fit that image, it won't really work, sorry. I'm not saying that an older person can't get a job in China, not at all. I'm just saying it might be a little more difficult for someone who's 52 versus someone who's 25, for example. If I get a job in China, can my partner come along with me on some kind of other visa? Yes, absolutely. Your partner can come along with you, although I think that only really applies if you are married. If you're engaged, or if you're just boyfriend, girlfriend, girlfriend, whatever, like, that's not gonna really work. It's not gonna fly. They may have to come over on a tourist visa and exit the country every 2 or 3 months. But yeah, they can definitely come over if they are married to you. No problem. And here's one about the air quality in Chengdu. Is the air quality good or bad most of the time? I did address this in my Moving to Chengdu series, talking about like Chengdu is one of the more polluted cities in China. Yeah, so air is not a great thing here. It's just, it's one of those things you got to deal with in China pretty much no matter where you go. But in Chengdu, I will say summer is the best time. Summer is the best time here in Chengdu. Air pollution is pretty much a non-issue. But when you get into like fall and winter, it's going to be really, really bad. Fall and winter are really, really bad. Winter and fall is pretty much bad all over China, so it's not really a Chengdu thing. Sorry to say, but if you can't deal with pollution, just don't come to China. Just don't do it. Geographically, how big is China compared to the USA? It's pretty close, although I think China is a little bit bigger, just a little bit bigger. Second question, do I really think that the Chinese education system stops China from innovating? Ooh, that's a big question. I think the answer is kind of yes and no. Depends where you are in China, because China is a changing and developing and growing country in all aspects. It's not just a skyline that grows and the infrastructure that develops. Education is a part of that development as well. So sometimes education takes 2 steps forward and 1 step back, or 3 steps forward and 26 steps back, or whatever. Like, things just go up and down. That's the way it is. But I have absolutely seen a change in things here in China education-wise. Every single year that I've been teaching, the students have been getting better. Of course, I have been teaching at better universities, but even some of my coworkers here at Sichuan University, they say every single year the students get better, they get smarter, they get more creative, and they love it. Do I think Chinese students are creative as they could be? No. Do I think China innovates as much as it could? No. Do I think that copycatting is a problem here? Yes, but I can't personally do anything about it. It's a severely complicated problem because of just the sheer number of Chinese students. You won't believe how many students there are in China, how many schools, and how many regulations you have to put in place. I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible to change or anything, but if you're going to institute changes here in China and it's something as important as education, you got to be really careful. Being a foreigner in China, that's probably all I'm allowed to say about that. For someone who's just coming to China, what is the best age group to teach? That is a hard question, and I'm not really sure I'm qualified to answer that because everyone is different, right? So personally, I find university students to be the easiest to teach because their English level is already higher. You can explain to them more difficult and nuanced concepts. You can see them improve in really meaningful ways. It's great, but some people find teaching kids to be the easiest, so it really just depends on you, man. Madeline, sorry. Do people stare at me when I'm vlogging in public? Absolutely. Every single time, every single video. You can probably run a tally of how many times people have stared at me in my videos. It's probably hundreds of the look backs. You know the look back, right? People walk past you and then they you can see them whip around and look at the camera every single time, every time. Well, I think that's about it. Please, everyone, give this video a thumbs up and subscribe if you haven't. I'm in the middle of my 30 videos in 30 days challenge. Thumbs up really, really helps, and also comments really, really help for that YouTube algorithm and engagement so that I can grow my channel. All right, guys. Yep. Goodbye. See you tomorrow.